Good morning. We're following on from our topic, is yelling, the new smacking from last week's post. Now, when we talk about children pushing our buttons, the name that Living Wisdom uses for buttons is unbearable feeling. Everybody has an unbearable feeling, normally. And one of the most common things we grab to avoid feeling that feeling is anger. It's a bit of a shame that that has become one of the most common survival kits to grab so that we don't feel the other feeling. Therefore, anger is a secondary emotion. It's not the primary emotion. So we've got to discover what the primary emotion is underneath the yelling or whatever form a person's anger takes. So what are some of the common, most unbearable feelings? We want to have a look at that in a minute. But how is an unbearable feeling actually formed in us? Well, normally it's formed when we're younger. Children are great recorders of their experiences, but poor interpreters. And often we get emotional bruises through our experiences or our interpretation of the experience. When that emotional bruise becomes unbearable because the mind says you can never ever feel that again, we grab something to avoid feeling it. The trouble is what we grab, such as anger, becomes a bigger problem than the old emotional bruise or button or unbearable feeling. So let's just run through a list of the most common unbearable feelings that will cause a person to grab anger. Then I'll give you an example of one, and then in the next post we'll just look at one each of these and talk about what we're going to do about those. So the first unbearable feeling, most common one, is disappointment. Now that sounds strange, disappointment, but anger is disappointment energy, and we all have disappointments every day in life. And one of the best things you can teach a child is to cope with the disappointment of life without getting angry. We've all got to experience disappointments. The other really, really common one is to be unheard. And we raise our voice thinking that that's the way to be heard. The trouble is we just teach those around us to switch us off in the end, block us out, and then we bring about the very thing we fear, which is people refusing to hear us. Another really common one is humiliation or embarrassment. How much do our children embarrass or humiliate us at times? It's part of having children. They are our divine invitation to be okay with feeling embarrassed or humiliated. But if that's your unbearable feeling, you're going to pounce and jump whenever there's the possibility of being embarrassed or humiliated. Another really common one is feeling powerless. Of course, with children, we are powerless. We're powerless a lot of the times of what they do and say. Another common one is futility. In other words, it's all a waste of time. All my effort hasn't paid off. That is true with children, isn't it? How long do we have to train them to keep their room tidy? It feels like it's futile, a bit like housework really. We put all that effort in and then it's messy again the next day. Another really common one is to feel overloaded or swamped. We do feel overloaded with parenting. It's one of the most difficult jobs that we'll ever have to do. So it's actually natural and normal to feel overloaded and swamped, but then we believe we're not coping. The thing is, you probably are coping. It's just that you don't feel it. Being held up or running late. They're good at doing that too, aren't they? If that's your unbearable feeling, you're going to be very angry when it looks like you're going to be held up or running late. And of course, the last one that we want to think about is feeling tired, exhausted. If you've been sleep deprived, you know, when the river runs low, the rocks show through. One of the first things we do when we're sleep deprived or exhausted is get stroppy and snappy. So those are some of the common unbearable feelings that will cause a person to feel anger. I want to leave you with this question to think about between now and when we start exploring each of these buttons or unbearable feelings and giving you a few truth coaches for each one. Here's the question to think about. If I don't grab anger, what is the feeling that is going to hit me? If I don't grab anger, what's the feeling that will hit me? Think about that. See if you can taste that feeling. See if you can find that feeling. You're looking for the primary emotion. And it's not frustration. Frustration is the warning sign that anger is on its way. It's one of these other ones. Feeling disappointed, feeling powerless, feeling unheard, feeling disobeyed is another one. Feeling disrespected, feeling controlled or dominated, feeling swamped, overloaded, feeling held up, feeling exhausted. What is the feeling underneath the anger? Have a good week. See you again in a few days.